Press on Smooth 98.1 is brought to you by ARM. ARM. Let's face tomorrow together.
We're Smooth 98.1 FM, 28 minutes before it is top of the hour, 8 o'clock, but not before we get all the papers served within the minutes we've got right now to you. And it is the 20th day of November 2023. And I've been joined by two gentlemen. I first would say big good morning to AB Bozimo. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Omas. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners.
And I also say big good morning to Mr. C.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, lady. Good morning.
Now, also very integral is that I've got these two gentlemen here, but I know I've got you, and you know that the analysts would have their say about the headlines this morning. More like remixing the definition of democracy now, but let's see. The analysts will have their own say about the headlines, and then you would have your say about the headlines this morning. And that's where we need you to get them coming to 0809-444-0981 be where I love to read all your response relating to the headlines this morning. Well, if you're on YouTube, you could go over there to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. That said, let's go in and pick up this paper, starting with Mr. C. Help us understand what this is about. Federal government launches release of 4,068 inmates. That's what the Nation newspaper is leading with from this development. And let's see who is in the middle of this. The Minister of Interior, Tunji Onjo. Speak to us about this release. Are we ready to have these people come out?
Okay, thank you, Amos. Now, there's a little bit of a background to this story. We are all witnesses to the fact that our custodial correctional centers are overpopulated, and that we have more inmates in those centers than we originally intended for. Now, a large population of the total number of human beings inside our custodial centers, funny enough, are people awaiting trial. The people who have actually been convicted form a very small percentage of the total number. And we've read accounts, we've seen stories of people who've spent 5 years, 10 years, 14 years for crimes or alleged offenses that were never established, or simply an inability to pay fine. Now, the current Minister for Interior, Mr. Olubimi Tunji, has launched a scheme, and I dare say that he's one of the few bright lights in this current administration. He appears, at least on paper, to have an idea of what he intends to do and appears to be following a roadmap. And I wish the other ministers in the cabinet would follow his lead or consult him for tips. Back to the story. Now, he's launched a program whereby 4,068 inmates would be released, and they've been identified as prisoners or people in custodial centers who have been unable to come out because either they've been convicted with the option of fine and they cannot pay, or they're supposed to pay some sort of compensation. Now, this is a step in the right direction. We must remember we already have civil society groups that have taken this up, but due to their limited resources, there's only so much they can do. Now, we want to believe that this is the first step, and this will not be the end. And to answer Omas's question, whether we're ready for them to come in, the truth of the matter is, given the nature of the offenses for which they're currently in prison for, maybe they should never have been there. Some of these people are simply have the misfortune of not having anyone in society or strong enough to stand for them, maybe stand as surety, get them bail. And speaking personally as a lawyer, I've seen a lot of people who have stayed in prison simply because they cannot get shorties to take them out of bail. Some of these offenses for which they're taken to court, with all due respect to Nigerian police force, there's no evidence. They just, when they're frustrated with you, you can't get them what they want. They take you to court and dump you in the system. So kudos to the Interior Minister, and I do pray and hope that this is just the beginning and this will be a regular occurrence because our total capacity for prisons right now is about 50,000. But currently we're holding about 80,000. So 30,000 people have to leave.
So do we have a figure of persons who are likely to benefit from this scheme by the Interior Minister?
So in this first phase, I did mention that there are 4,068 inmates who will benefit in the first phase. But I'm hoping that this is not enough.
Okay, now this leads us to, we know how environment, if it's bad, can corrupt a person who is good. And from experiences and from testimonies of people who've been through the custodial center or correctional center, they've said they come back worse than they went in there. So that goes back to the question again. Are these people, you think they've been properly processed to come back and face society they left?
Okay, so I think it's a 50-50. Is there some sort of correction going on in the sentence? Clearly there is. Is this sufficient? The jury is out on that. But personally, I would suggest it's not. However, you must remember that criminality depends on the particular individual and not necessarily the same circumstances. So you find two people who were born into a ghetto. One may resort to a life of crime and decide that this is what he knows. The other person may decide, look, even though I was born into this environment, I can do better. He pulls himself up by his socks, goes to school, studies his books, and makes a better human being out of his life, makes his conditions better, and he moves out of that place. Even in society, when we say that, are they being taught and they come out worse? How many people in society who have not yet been caught are truly living by the letters of the law? It's just that some people haven't been caught, some people haven't been apprehended, and there's very little chance that will happen. So at the end of the day, criminality, again, I strongly stand by this, depends on the individual, depends on your value system, depends on goals you have. If you are tended to a life of crime, no matter what sort of help is given to you or made available to you, you will fall back on a life of crime because that is the disposition of your mindset.
Thank you very much, Mr. C, for the submission. That leads us to the Punch newspaper, where I have A.B. Bozimo waiting with this headline here. Third Mainland Bridge closes for repairs on Monday. That's the federal government speaking. So as we speak, if what anything is to go by, it means it's been shut at the moment. So AB, this is your terrain, and we look at some of this infrastructure ordinarily wherever you see them in the world, infrastructure tells you, infrastructure would point to the location of the world. If you see that's the regular, the bridge, the Golden Bridge somewhere around that. Yeah, you say that you can know the location. So are we really, our infrastructure, are we really giving them the emphasis they need as national treasures? Maybe you could go on now.
Maybe you would have the only one that has that character is the Lekki connecting bridge in Lagos. Okay, I'll relog in.
Yes, are you hearing me now? Yes, we can go on. It's better now.
Okay, the bridge that has the character in Lagos is that Lekki Bridge. That one has become the star of 900 Nollywood movies since it was built. But that's to be expected. It's quite attractive. The Third Mainland Bridge is more of a service bridge. It has been there for decades and has been progressively deteriorating. So the government has decided to take a very firm stance, shut it down to be able to do the work once and for all, at least a major renovation. So I can see why they would do that. It's possible to do it in phases, but you tend to find that would last much longer. I'm sure they did the calculation. Either we shut it down and do it, or we do it overnight each day. They have calculated the difficulty people will go through versus the duration. And I guess they came up on the idea that let's shut it down, fix it, and then reopen it. So this is certainly a major undertaking and is going to have a significant impact on Lagos traffic. However, they say that there are people who have been positioned to assist people with the alternative routes. The question is, how good are some of those alternative routes? You know, the Third Mainland Bridge, as bad as it was, at least it gave you one direction to get into, the island and off the island. Some of those other bridges are interesting at best and quite tattered at worst in certain spots. And then some of them have security challenges. So there's a lot of work to be done on the bridge. I concede that, and I'm happy to hear that maintenance, which is the bane of Nigerian infrastructure, is going on. However, we must be very intentional about managing the spillover traffic to the other bridges that were barely coping initially. Hopefully, after the period they say they have done the projections correctly, they'll be able to reopen it and the populace will benefit from this process. But get ready for quite an interesting time as it's being maintained.
Okay, very quickly, just to add to what AB has said. My understanding is it's not the bridge itself that has been closed, it's the access runs from Shoki and from Adekunle that have been closed. But the main bridge itself is still open. That's my understanding. And for any of our listeners who's happened to be on that bridge today, we'd like to get your feedback of what your experience was.
Okay, so we'll wait for that to come across, but let's get Mr. C in on this one. Okay, Mr. C, help us understand this next story where, okay, that should have been Mr. C's story, but then let's get to AB now. AB, I'll still stay with you on this next story. The Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency alerts parents on youths concealing illegal substance in fancy bottles. As you help us understand this as a parent, they say the principal or the headmaster was once a schoolboy, or even parents were once. So how come these children, the Gen Zs or children, are beating their parents to this with all of this? I heard a story where a mother thought it was ordinary Coke and she's still sleeping it off by now. But anyway, take it away from here.
You know, first of all, this, beyond the sad lighter note on it, this just underpins the fact that there is a growing and serious drug problem in society. When you're talking about small decorative bottles, okay, so do you think that these Gen Zs will not change it into drab looking larger bottles or put it inside some of the popular, bottles we know? It's not about the type or color of the bottle, it's about the content and to understand how it's being sourced, how it's being distributed, and stopping it at those sources. Now, the NDLEA must be giving kudos for even bringing this up as part of the things you must keep in mind as a parent. But the NDLEA is not a parent. It is really the parent's responsibility to check, double check, cross check, not only on your child, but some of their colleagues and friends, because at the end of the day, that child is your responsibility. Getting them exposed to things. I noticed that they said this in certain arenas of, Lekki, Ikoyi, Victoria. Some of these drugs are a problem of affluence because if you can think about it, a bottle, according to this story, is 15,000 naira. That is two of the bottles are a low income earner's monthly salary. So it's people who seem to have enough, should I call it disposable income that can do it. So even if you are giving your child an allowance, you should have an idea what they are doing with the allowance. You must monitor your children at the end of the day because if they succeed, you succeed. If they fail, it tells badly on you. NDLEA, kudos, but parents have responsibilities that are plus or minus NDLEA. You have to look after your children and their well-being.
Thank you very much, AB, for the submission. If you just joined in, you're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Let's quickly say thank you to T listening, and she just sent in a message now helping us understand the situation on the Third Mainland Bridge. Saying Third Mainland Bridge is open from Iyanoworo to Adekunle, but however, it says the route going to Adekunle from Iyanoworo is closed. That's the situation now. Thanks so much, T, for that. So we'll be back to pick up some more stories after now, procurement issues related, but that will be after this.
For a reliable way to grow your money, let me tell you about ARM. ARM is one of the largest non-bank financial institutions with over 29 years of expertise in money management and wealth creation. Since 3 decades, ARM is all about ensuring your financial goals are met with ease, no matter who you are. Now, whether it's growing your money, safe, well-managed investments, or goals in school fees, personal development, vacations, rent, buying a property, or preparing for the future, ARM got you covered. We all know there are a lot of apps out there promising to grow your money, but ARM has everything you need to go from where you are to where you need to be. Start your wealth creation journey today by downloading the ARM One app, Google Play Store, or iOS Store. Great options for everyone. You even start with as low as 1,000 Naira, just 1,000 Naira. For more information, visit arm.com.ng or call 01-271-5002. That's 01-271-5002. ARM, let's face tomorrow together.
The medium of exchange, the currency that flows through the veins of any viable economy. Your tune in to Smooth 98.1 for a definite and weekly analysis and check on your income. It's all about your finances made easy. Personal finance on Smooth 98.1 every Wednesday from 5:15 p.m. This is Paul, and you're listening to Smooth Breakfast.
We're Smooth 98.1 FM. Let's get into the stories. It's freshly pressed, and I'm heading to Mr. C to help us to make sense of this from the Business Day stand. It says Lagos government procurement scandal, billion naira fans and phantom contractors. That's what the headline says here, and that's in relation to the revelation made by the candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, in the Guba election this year, Funsho Doherty, speaking about this. So it's written a letter dated November 17 asking for more clarification. But Mr. C, help us understand how we got here.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Funsho Doherty has done negotiations and by extension a very good
favor. Now, if not for him, we would not know that in the second and third quarter of this year, 2023, the Lagos State government embarked on certain transactions which at best are absurd. Now, this information was gotten from the Lagos State government website, ostensibly. Now, we've been treated to revelations. For example, the office of the deputy, the wife of the deputy governor gets 30 million monthly for empowerment. Meanwhile, there is a whole ministry set up for that. In what capacity are state funds being given to an office or an individual not recognized by the Constitution? Is there any audit trail for how that money is disbursed and whether it's used for the purposes for which it has been given? We're then told the sum of 7 million naira is used for liquid fragrances. 5.3 billion naira plus is used to update a master plan, not to develop a new master plan, to update it. We're told the Office of the Chief of Staff gets an LX600 2023 bulletproof model. What is the Chief of Staff's office doing that sort of vehicle? He's not the governor, he's not the deputy governor, he's not an elected public official. Why does he need a bulletproof car? And it goes on and on. And it is really sad because it speaks to one thing: the impunity with which some of our public officials act is truly saddening and depressing. And it also speaks to the absence of strong institutions that can check these things. And that it then begs the question, what is the House of Assembly doing? But again, this is Lagos State. Lagos State is a unique state that defies logic, that defies every attempt to understand what is going on. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, Mr. Doherty has written a letter. I'm willing to bet my last dollar he will not get a response to that letter. And if he does get a response, it will not make any sense. Because these are amounts that have already been spent. It's not proposed to be spent. And we're even looking at the descriptions, and it is clear they don't even rate Nigerians. They're not even trying to be intelligent about how they describe these expenditures.
Now, the source of this information put out now by Funsho Doherty is the question now. What that this amount itself was found on the website, does this beggar transparency in itself, physical transparency for it to be in the public domain? But why didn't we see it until Doherty had to go there and bring it out and it's been there all this while?
Well, Omas, it's of no moment who sees it first. And this doesn't speak to transparency, I'm sorry, because what they're doing is we've done what we know, we put it in your face, there's nothing we can do about it. And in the now famous mantra, go to court. So basically, they cannot be bothered about what they've done. And it's really and truly tragic.
We see that the Lagos State governor in a pre-election matter had his legal fees paid for by the Lagos State government. Under what arrangement? It's a pre-election matter. The governor is separate from the state. If the governor has a pre-election matter, he should pay for his legal expenses from
That was
own
also
funds.
found in the Doherty's.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really sad. You would expect a House of Assembly that is on its toes to now summon the relevant government officials and investigate the matter. But this is Lagos State.
AB Bozimo, we'll drift to you now. Let's get this one, and it's going to Plateau State, one of the finest weather anyone can think about, but we're just putting it to waste. But let's see what the climate is like in terms of politics, according to this headline. The Daily Post, appeal court sacks Plateau governor, Mutfwang. That's what it is. Are we seeing flipping of states? Because with the last time I checked, Kano was flipped. Now we see this one again. Why are politicians not mastering the act of politics and getting to overwork our judges with all of this all again?
When the purpose of a thing is not understood, abuse is inevitable. You say, why are politicians? The politicians are not politicking for the purpose of the people. Unfortunately, it's power grabs in many cases, in my view. And so they'll do it either before, during, or after an election. According to the appeal courts, they say that the former elected governor is no longer the person and the other party should be recognized. The appeal court, I believe, is the last bus stop when it comes to, is there a Supreme Court? Is there a Supreme Court challenge?
Correct.
Okay, so maybe there's one more opportunity for this to be reviewed at the Supreme Court level, but I don't know what the mechanics will be, whether indeed that ruling will mean that the current governor has to hand over and go to court, or whether he sits pending the outcome of the appeal. What I'll just say as a non-lawyer is that the way the law and the election process has been going, it genuinely looks from me on the outside like utter and absolute.
Okay, while we wait for AB to come in. All right. No, sorry, AB would have you please log back in again. But Mr. C, take it away from
It
you. You're the
doesn't
law
seem. I would think that the one or two cases and every election seems to have. Am I there? Okay.
Yes, you're okay.
So I'll just say it just looks like utter chaos to me, and I wish elections could be done according to what was promised by the electoral body, and then I believe there will be much fewer issues that have to be settled in court.
Okay, so let me address this from a legal standpoint. In the presidential election tribunal in the Supreme Court, we were told that the issue of whether the vice president was validly nominated was a pre-election matter that could not be decided. And that was the position of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Fantastic. We ran away with it. Now, in Kano and in
Plateau and in Zamfara, the Court of Appeal has done a complete 360 and is now suggesting that it can handle pre-election matters. That is complete judicial rascality. As bad as that Supreme Court judgment was in respect of the appeal from the Presidential Election Tribunal, it is now binding law in Nigeria until it is set aside. Therefore, the decisions in Zamfara, the decision in Plateau, the decision in Kano they are all wrong because they are bound and must follow the decision of the Supreme Court in the presidential election appeal, which is pre-election matters cannot be handled at that point. They should be taken at the Federal High Court.
All right, so that's enough time now to get over to listen to what the listener is saying about all of these headlines so far. Fabian from Ekwe, good morning, everyone. Though the NDLEA is trying, they can do much better. The areas in Lekki and VI where these drugs are sold are known. It is not enough to make small raids and pick up the peddlers. Another peddler will just take their place. It's the barons that need to be identified and made to face the book. Fabian from Ekbe leaves us that one. If you want to the eye of the fish, you know it's the head you go to. Moving away. This one comes in from Tonye from Lagos Metropolis. You guys need to understand that 3.5 billion of the 7 billion Naira Fragrance Fund is going straight to the rubbish dump at Ojota. That place stinks, and I think it's a good use of the money. Then comes in next message. Dan Okudwa says, well, if I were the governor, I will honorably resign this morning. Its revelation is scandalous. And then that's Dan Okudwa from Igondo. Then comes Joyce with a message saying, well, we focus on the president while state governors just steal and water many hard-earned money. Well, yes, the monies, they wasted our taxpayers' money. This is very painful. But I would find Ayo_Lagos message here saying, on the Lagos website discovered by Funsho Doherty, I will differ. It is transparency because it was not hidden. It is in the public domain, and I bet you there will be a defense for it. They are out in there in the first place. Kudos to Doherty. He should press further and does deserve the response. Then I would get Oladepo Abbasi's message in that Funsho Doherty as easily have access to Lagos State document tells you that they are transparent enough to open their books. How many states do this? Days ago, Alex Oti of Abia was accused of spending over 5 billion naira on frivolous things, but there was no media analysis from it. It's really good that we have this and hope to hear from that state. Are you asking Mr. C to go after that one? But anyway, on the Plateau issue, it goes on. We hope our analysts remember that this same thing happened in Zamfara. Mr. C alluded to in 2019 to APC. Democracy was never in danger then. So we hope that we won't cry foul over the judgment. This is different from presidential issue. Sir, Mr. C. Now we'll go to Joseph Menye. This is the season of revelation of many inhumanity to man. Just imagine that impunity and reckless spending by the Lagos state government at a time like this, when majority are wailing and hunger stricken, yet they can still go on spending spree. Well, that's Joseph Menye with a message. Zikolo will leave me a message here. What is he saying? I gave up Lagos state government spending when during one of the governor's re-election interview, he was asked to give account of how he spends the IGR. And the first thing he mentioned was that he spent over 1 billion naira on waste management. The very first thing he mentioned. I think this state runs the most financially irresponsible government in Nigeria. Debola comes up with a message. Guys, the Plateau decision is different. There was an order of court before the election petition saying the PDP apparatus was not properly constituted. That court order was not vacated or appealed by the PDP. Debola from Oyingbo. Okay, we're almost done now. Let's see if you want, draw this one in. I've got Pastor Dako. Rehabilitation of Third Mainland Bridge is important. Kudos. Congratulations to Liberia newly elected President Joseph Bukai. Well, it's a wrap here, guys, gentlemen. I want to say thank you to A.B. Bozimo for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me. Agree, disagree. Let's talk about it at A.B. Bozimo on all platforms.
And then I also say big thank you to Mr. C this morning.
Thank you for having me, and we can pick up this conversation on what you see on all social media platforms.
And as we say when we get on the show is the analyst would have their say, the listener would also have their say. In the middle somewhere, you would find all of the details. But above all, you can also take the conversation further on their various social media handles. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.